carried me to streets of gold. Things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Good morning, Robertson County. Good morning. How you doing? This is 1100 WSGI. I'm U-Turn Laverne, and this is One Street Over, a little thing we do every Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. We do this so you can know what's going on one street over from where you are. And I am so excited about this morning. I tell you, we already prayed it in, because this morning I want to make sure I get out of the way and let you meet a couple of folks that we've talked about a couple of different times, because Danavyn Hylton has told me about them, and Donovan's not on the mic right now, but I tell you what, you take the mic real quick, Donovan, so you can kind of introduce these folks, because you're the one who brought them to me. I first met Dominik, I want to say 6 months ago maybe, and then you've told me about Denise, but why don't you go ahead and introduce these folks and tell them a little bit about them, but real quickly, because I really, as we were praying over this, I just want to get out of the way and let the Holy Spirit speak through y'all, because this is a powerful story. So go ahead and introduce it for us.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. And I just want to thank Dominik and Denise for taking time out, first of all, and just the coordination back and forth and the sensitivity of everything. So I just thank you all for your patience, professionalism, and of course, I stand in agreement with the prayer first and foremost for today. But basically, Dominik, Denise are just good people in the community, working hard every day. And Dominik and I met, we were actually heading to Bordeaux in North Nashville to join Judge Joe Perry for an expungement clinic that was being hosted in North Nashville, and how to bring that to Robertson County. And so in that, I had a chance to talk with Dominik, and he shared his story with me and also his insight as far as what he's learned. And so we invited him down on the show, a great conversation. And Denise had made a comment on Facebook, and I just reached out, and I wasn't quite sure if that was the correct lady, and I didn't want to speak out of context with that, but she reached back out to me, and we've been able to build a great relationship since. And so today, the two finally get a chance to just talk and share with us, and we can all learn, grow, and work together.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so hand the microphone back over there to Dominik, and you've got to put that right on you, brother. Okay. So in introduction, this is Dominique. How do you say your name?
Dominik.
Dominik.
Yeah.
Dominik. Yeah. Just very easily. Yeah. I'm overcomplicating it, aren't I? Dominik Hudson and Denise Douglas. And again, when Dominik first came on, Danavyn brought him on and said, I want you to meet this gentleman because I want you to hear his story. And then you unpacked a story about somebody from your church. And so how do you guys want to tell this? Denise, do you want to say hello? I know. Who wants to start? Who wants to start here? I don't know. How do we need to start this, guys? What do y'all think? Do you want to start with Dominic? Okay, Dominic, why don't you tell your story? Because everybody's like, what are you talking about, Laverne? Some of them may remember it, but you tell your story like you told it to me when I originally met you, and then we'll bring Denise into the picture. Good morning, beautiful. You just look beautiful. And I told them, I said, are you nervous? And they're like, no, I am. Because again, I'm trying to get out of the way, so I'm going to shut up. It's already 4 after. So, Dominic, you've got the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all again for this opportunity. Shortly, I'm not going to be long-winded because I really want Denise to tell her story about forgiveness and what forgiveness does and what it looks like and what it's supposed to look like. But formerly, I was on the show and we talked about why I went to prison, and I went to prison for murder. In 2018, you know, I came home in 2015. I made parole and came home. But you think about your life and the people you've hurt. I said I'd never come back to Springfield, and because I knew there was people here that I hurt, and I didn't want to feel like that because I was free, that I wanted to turn around my freeness in their face because they were still hurting. But I went through I ain't gonna say a bad relationship, but I went through a breakup, and it caused me to really examine my life and where I need to be and what God wanted me to be. Well, a friend of mine invited me to City of Faith, 2018, and Family and Friends Day, and I was sitting on the back row, and I'm not the type of person when I go to church, I'm not trying to be seen, so I just sit back and just enjoy the service. If I like it, I come back. But I was sitting down on the back row, and a lady came and touched me on the shoulder, and she like, right before service at the end, she like, can I speak to you? And I turned around, I'm like, oh Lord, what I do to this lady, you know? And I said, yes, ma'am. So I got up, and we went to the foyer on the outside of the church, and she looked at me and she said, I'm Larry's sister.
And she said, basically, do you remember me? Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, no.
No.
And who's Larry?
Yeah. Well, I knew who Larry was, but once she said that, we both broke down and cried, you know, and she was just like, I love you and I forgive you.
Clarify who Larry is, because that's one thing. I think because whenever you originally told me the story, you were talking about how that, you know, what happened when you went, you had to serve time for this murder, and the reason you didn't want to come back to Robertson County is because you knew the victim's family was here, and you didn't want to further hurt them.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's why you wanted to stay out of Robertson County. So here
ma'am.
You are now in church, and you get a tap on the shoulder, and this is your victim, Larry's sister.
Yeah. Sister, at the time this day, both his sisters was at church. His dad was at church. I had no idea.
Wow.
But, you know, God orchestrates things that need to happen in life. And I tell people, your worst critic is yourself. And myself, I'm still going through forgiveness with myself, but this kind of helps. Her saying she forgive me, one of her sisters saying she loved me, she forgive me. True, everybody's not going to forgive it at the same time, but it's a process, and I thank God that he allowed this process, because even though I was physically free, I'm still mentally and emotionally free, bondage, because of what I've done. You know, it's still hard to even think about and forgive myself, because I know there's people still hurting, you know.
And with that said, Denise, do you want to jump in here?
Yes, I'll jump right in.
Hang on just a minute. That microphone. There we go. Now we got it. Go for it.
This date right here is so in line with everything that occurred. So we just had the first Sunday in June, and it was the first Sunday in June when Dominique would come to our church on Family Day. And I was close to the front, so I did not see him there, but other people made me aware that he was there. And I mean, my family was packed in there. At the time, my dad was also a member at the church, and so I mean, all of my aunties, my stepmom, my brother, my whole family was there. And so I was in the spirit, and so I really didn't get the fact that Dominique was there. Then my baby sister, she runs up at the end of service and she said, "Did you see Dominique?" And I was like, no, I didn't see him. But I saw a guy earlier when I turned around, because when a lot of families come in and it's not their home church, you tend to look for them. So I kept looking around, and I did see a guy in a suit, but I really didn't recognize it to be Dominique at the time. And just to go backwards a little bit, I was the one that kept running into Dominique. And see, I didn't know Dominique before this, and so I didn't recognize him not being in prison. And so right down the street here at the store would be the first encounter where I saw him. And I was getting ready to enter the store, and he turned around. You know, you just turn around when somebody is entering the store. You know, he wasn't doing anything wrong, but I just got back in my car. I never went in the store. And then a couple of more times I would see him. I saw him at Kroger. Then I seen him. He was having his engagement party, and a lady from our church just called me to help her with something, and I would be there, and I see him then. So I was the family member who kept running into Dominique. And so going back to the family day and him being there, so it didn't even cross my mind. After service, we were going to Paradise Ranch and everything, and so like I love Paradise Ranch. It's such a beautiful place. So, and I had all of my family with me, so Dominique just didn't cross my mind. And so the very next day, I had took my kids to school, and I was logging on to work and at home alone, and just started crying. And I didn't really understand. Like, I was like, why am I crying? And then Dominique comes up. And so that whole week, I would relive everything. I would relive the moment when they called me at home. I was pregnant. I was 7 months pregnant with my son. And so I would relive that moment. I would relive the moment at Northcrest when they were life flighting him. I would relive the moment at Vanderbilt when they said he didn't make it out of surgery. So that whole week was me reliving everything. And my best friend, her birthday was just yesterday. So it was celebration time for her birthday that weekend as the week went on. And I was like, I can't go. But it took everything in me, and I went to the celebration and everything. And my dad at the time, he was living in Goodlettsville. And so I stayed at his house because the celebration was in Nashville. And so long story short, I'm sitting on the couch on that Saturday afternoon. It was raining outside, very gloomy. Hadn't shared my week with anyone in the family. Nobody, they didn't know. They knew Dominique was there that Sunday, but they didn't know what I was living through that week. And so I get a call to do testimony at church that Sunday. So that would make it June 8th, today's date, when I first did a testimony. And so I told the pastor, I said, you will need to be praying now until you see me on that stage and during the time. He had no idea what I was going to speak about. But I knew God had confirmed everything. I knew what I had to do, and I knew what I had to speak on. So, and I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to say this or say that. I really didn't want to hear what everybody else had to say. I was really listening to God at the time. And so I knew that God had done this for me and for Dominique. And Dominique, he wasn't there. He wasn't at our church when I gave that first testimony or whatever. But God told me to forgive Dominique. And me reliving that, it just confirmed everything. It was time. And I didn't have any doubt, and I don't have any doubt now. God has never failed. He's never forsaken us. He's never led us down a path that if we listen to him, we'll go down the right path. He's never led us down the wrong path. And Dominique, he does make it easy for me. He's very respectful. So I would give that testimony at church, June 8th. 2018. Then Dominique will return to our church June 24th. That was men's conference. He will return to our church that weekend. So I'm in the balcony at church. My birthday was the day before, so I got to church a few minutes late. Church was packed out. We had a guest speaker. But my younger sister, she would text me and say, are you having a guest speaker at your church today? And I was like, yes, we are. So her car was in the parking lot when I got there. She was already seated. The church is separated into 4 sections. So I was in the balcony, right-hand side. My sister was on the right-hand side of the church. Dominique was on the very far left-hand side of the church. And so, like, I really, like, my sister was just boohooing, crying, and I was like, I was watching the whole time. I was like, I hope my sister doesn't see Dominique, you know, whatever, after I seen him. But my sister, she was boohooing, crying, or whatever. So I come out of the balcony, and I was soothing my sister, comforting my sister, and I looked over at Dominique, and her friend was with her. And I was like, you got her or whatever. So I just went pat him on the shoulder, as Dominique said. I pat him on the shoulder, and I was like, can I speak with you? And I took him in the foyer, and I asked him, I said, do you remember me? Do you know who I am? He said, no, ma'am. And I told him who I was. I said, Larry Turner was my brother. And I said, I forgive you. I said, I don't know if you heard, because I didn't know who invited him to our church. But, you know, I know, you know, people had heard about my testimony. So I was like, I don't know if you heard, but I forgive you. And I said, God did not create you to murder. I said, God created you with purpose. I said, and you have purpose in life. And I just, from there, I really, like, everything just went. And I asked him, I was like, my sister's here. I said, can you talk to my sister? Dominique, he was like, I've been waiting 10 or 12 years to talk with you all. And so I just know that God did it. I know without a doubt that God did it. He had it already laid out, and I say sometimes, I was like, well, why did he have to lay it out before me? Why did I have to be the person or whatever? But why not? Why not? And sometimes we have to take position, and we don't even want to be in that position. And I can just tell you, after I gave testimony, Pastor Gardner, he said to me, he said, everything that has happened to you, you have justifiable reasons not to forgive. He said, but God, he told you to forgive, and that's what you're doing. He said, you're on the right track. And we do, God forgives us, and so we have to forgive others. And there's so many benefits with forgiving people that, you know, it's really for your own self. My whole family has been through a lot of sickness, a lot of illness, and unforgiveness is the root of illness. And I just believe that, and I just choose to forgive. And with forgiving Dominique, it has allowed me to forgive a lot of people. And it has made forgiving easier for me, because I can always refer back to Dominique. And Dominique, he asked me, I just remember July of 2018, Dominique asking me, was it okay to join our church? And I was thinking, you know, who am I? But God, if God sent you somewhere, you better stay planted. So I just feel like that God sent Dominique to our church, and it has allowed others to see forgiveness in a way that they would never see it before. And I just think when we're faithful, when we do what God has asked us to do, we will see the benefits. We will reap a harvest. And I just feel like Dominique makes it easy for me, because he is trying. Every day I see him trying. I see him trying and trying and trying. And to encourage him, it's just like encouraging a brother of mine. My brother, Pootie, we called him Pootie, his nickname Pootie, Larry Turner, had 4 kids. One, we lost her in 2020, and then he has one who just graduated, and he has another one that's going to graduate next year, and another one that's going to graduate the next year. So, and one, Alaric Hudson, is related to Dominique, and he did not get to meet his father. So, it still is, like Donovan said, it still is very sensitive to our family. A lot have not forgiven. But I think that it is possible. I think it is possible. I think it's doable. I was a person who really never said I was sorry. And so it has taught me a lot, because I became hatred. Hatred will poison you. And I just like, it never crossed my mind that I even had to forgive Dominik. And I was in church. I did know God, but I did not have it on my radar to ever forgive Dominik until that week after Family Day, until somehow, and I know God will keep you in a cloud. God will keep you in a cloud. And I just think he knew that I was so excited about family or whatever, that he just kept me in a place till I was alone. So it could just be God and I. And so I just thank you all for giving the opportunity to tell what has happened. And Dominik and I have also, we've been walking it, not just talking it, but we've been walking this forgiveness journey, because it is a journey. And you run it. There's dates, there's times that I don't want to face. Sometimes I can look over there at Dominik in church, and it helps me. It's helped my healing process. Yet the pain still remains. Just the thought of certain things sometimes bring us pain, and but Dominik saying I'm sorry, asking me am I okay, he's concerned about my well-being. And so it makes a difference when you see somebody really trying to engage with a family that he's hurt. And that hurt, I tell people, I have lost a lot. I have lost a lot of close, immediate family members in different ways. But murder, the quickness of everything that occurred, traumatic. And going through all of the different, what do you call those, Dominik?
Motion.
The stages
Parole
of grief.
hearings.
The pro hearings. Oh, okay. The parole hearings.
So
Okay.
I was speaking about the parole hearings, and Dominik and I have done a class together, Overcomers 9 a.m. at City of Faith.
Wow.
And we actually done it on forgiveness. And Dominik was able to play the parole hearing tape for me and play me. And so, like, I would never like to be that angry. I would never like to be that angry again. Never in my life. Just hearing myself, I know that it didn't even sound like me. But when you are fighting and not allowing God to fight, you become angry. Hate builds up in you. And so if I have anything to just share with anybody, is to don't get to the point where you're poisoned with hate, where you're poisoned with bitterness, because it will change who you are. Like, just listening, I was like, that is not even me, but it was me. It was me hurt. It was me not knowing where to put my hurt. And so I just thank God I know that he did it. And I say it all the time, God did it. And I know without a doubt, it was nothing that I could do in my own strength. But I know in God's strength, I could do anything. The word of God tells us, God can do the impossible, and we have to allow God to do the impossible. And I just thank God that week I allowed him to do the impossible, because if I would have got in the way, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, beautifully said. Like I said, I just wanted to. That's the story in a nutshell. Dominik, do you want to go next? Do you have anything you want to chime in here? Because all my commercials can wait till the end. I want to tell the story. We can get all the business done here at the end. I don't want to interrupt the flow of this. Do you want to chime in?
And like you said on her parole hearings, I went up for parole 5 times, and she was the loudest one in the room. Just thinking about the situation and everything that happened, I knew it had to be God. I know I've ran into Mr. Larry, which is her dad. I've ran into him a lot of times. You know, he's the one I've ran into the most. He would make me aware that he's seen me and I've seen him. But I would always shun myself because I knew I could see the hurt in him. And I was like, well, I just don't want to make that wound any worse. So I used to really run. And people were like, why are you running from him? So many times I want to reach out and say something, but I know I need to let him do that first because I know he's not there at his healing point. But I know God can do everything that he said in his word. And I thank God for Denise because the days that I feel down, the days that I feel like I just don't want to go anymore, I get a text or a call and like, you are a man of God. And whatever God said you are, you are. Regardless of what people think about you or regardless of how people see you. And she tell me, go ahead and pick your head up and just forgive yourself. And that's been, like I said, my hardest point, just to forgive myself, you know, because I know there's people still hurting. And I don't know how many times I can say I'm sorry. But she said something 3 years ago to date. She said forgiveness don't look like when you get forgiven, when you forgive yourself, that means you have to pick yourself up and continue to live the way you know you should live. And that's just been my strength, you know, regardless of who don't forgive and who does. As long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in the light of God, forgiveness is always going to be an opportunity. And she told me one day, she said, you might not never get to see people to forgive you, but as long as you stay who you say you are and be what God's called you to be, you'll be okay. And it's just been my strength every day, even though some days I'm like, I don't even know if it's going to work for me today. But that keeps replaying in my mind that I have to. And me and my little cousin, Larry Hudson, just looking at his face every day, knowing that he'll never get the opportunity to meet his dad and seeing his kids. I don't know many of them, but I know him when I see him on Facebook. And I remember his daughter before she passed. I inboxed her and said hello. Didn't even know who she was. And I commented on one of her pictures and I said, beautiful young lady. Didn't even know she was her daughter. But she said something to her auntie. I mean, it brought about a whole lot of stuff that I wasn't ready for. Brought about a whole lot of feelings that I had to face. And I had to tell her I was sorry too, you know. And even looking at my little cousin Larry, I see him every day, you know, being that he's my second cousin. It's my cousin, first cousin's son, and I see him every day. And now I'm getting the opportunity to do stuff that Larry may not ever get to do with his son. Like last week, we went trying to teach him how to drive and just do stuff that I know I should do, you know, giving back to the community, to these young men, that showing them, regardless of we've been shown in our communities, life can be different, you know, going to prison and just looking at my life, you know, everybody has a little dysfunction in their family, and it's not to down anybody in my family, but I had a lot of dysfunctional going on, and it ain't nothing good or bad about it. It's just people are doing what they've been taught. And then me being a mentor in the community, it's just things that I see that can be different. But how can you look at a child that's been raised in the community that's dysfunctional and tell them, well, everything they've learned in their community, everything they learned in their household is wrong? There's no way of telling a child that unless you show them something different. So we have to take these kids and show them something different in our communities in order for their lives to be changed. Other than that, they're going to continue to do the same thing they've always been taught. So that's what I've been trying to do in my life, as trying to be a godly man, trying to be not just also godly, but also just be the man that I'm supposed to be. Do something different, even though it don't feel comfortable at times. Just come out of my comfort zone and be spontaneous and do things as long as it is affect me in a positive manner. But Denise has been a great person in this process because she didn't have to, but she obeyed God and forgive anyway. You know, a lot of people won't ever get there because God tells us in his word what to do. But a lot of us don't do it. Like Paul said, I do is what I'm supposed to not do, but I keep on doing the things I'm supposed to do, I can't do. But she, like she said, God gave her the strength to do something she couldn't do. It let her know that God was there and she obeyed. And I just want to be that obedient because, yeah, I hurt people, and I'm still hurting people to this day. And I just want to be obedient and be able to live beyond the hurt that I'm causing. Because they say hurt people. But we can also change that narrative. Heal people. So, and which is what we're trying to do in our community. Just bring about healing and be what God calling us to do. Because Pastor Gardner told us one day in Bible study, he said, one thing, Jesus is probably looking down and telling us, we all have got it all wrong. Things that we're doing in churches and things we brought up doing in church and being traditional, we have missed the mark. And God is calling us to stand on the mark that He's sent Jesus here to do. And once we be obedient and do what Jesus came here to do, our world will be a better place.
Amen. The story of forgiveness, that's what is so powerful. A couple of things that you talk about mentoring the young people that are dealing with dysfunctionality in their homes, and the example that you guys are setting, because so many kids come up in dysfunction and they have this bitterness of like, well, you don't know what I've been through. Well, you don't know what they've been through. I mean, well, you do know what they've been through because they're sharing it so honestly and so truthfully. And the forgiveness, again, I said this at the beginning, this is the gospel message. Forgiveness, redemption, love, and healing. That is the gospel message. And you guys are just living it out and shining it. And I can't imagine a better message to mentor to those who are coming after you and those who are alongside you, your peers, your family, everybody. Just an incredible message. I'm just, again, speechless. Don't really want to muddy the waters with anything that might come off of my feeble mind. But do you have anything you want to share here, Denise?
I was just thinking as Dominik was speaking, walking a purpose-filled life, that speaks for itself. We want to say this, we want to do this, but people can see your walk. And that's what I see in Dominik. I see him on Sundays. I see him on Wednesdays. I see him on Saturday at church. But we also have other communications. So I know that he is he's walking this walk. And he's putting every effort in him. And along the way, we have to understand that we are imperfect creatures and that we're going to make a mistake. But we have to quickly forgive. We have to quickly forgive ourselves. And when we start to forgive ourselves, we will grow and we will be more happy in God. I tell people all the time, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And when you really feel the joy of the Lord, it makes a difference. And when you're walking for Him, and you're doing the best that you can, you will feel that joy and you will feel that strength at the same time, and you won't know where it came from. And that's what I want to say earlier. Like, I'm a shy type of person. I don't approach people, but when I approached Dominik, I felt like a giant. And it was only God. I know it was the Holy Spirit in me allowing me to approach Him, because I would never walk up to anyone and approach them like that in church at that and ask them to, walk out. So I know it was all God working. And so I tell people, allow God to do what God does best. Allow God to do what God does. When you allow God to do what God does, it changes everything. It changes everything. God, when you put Him first in everything that you do, it just changes everything. And sometimes we mess up. We forget to pray. We forget to say, Jesus, Jesus. I tell my kids all the time, when you're taking the test, just say Jesus, Jesus. Just whisper. But sometimes when we forget, we have to go back. We have to go back. Go back. Never leave God out. So I would tell anyone not to leave God out of anything that they do. And Dominik was speaking of dysfunction. Dysfunction is in every family, and we sometimes mask it so well. We mask things so well, and we don't want to share the dysfunction. But we need to release that dysfunction. We need to get the dysfunction out. We need to spell it out to the younger kids, so they won't make the same mistakes, so they won't go down the same route, and let them see us walking through the forgiveness. Let them see us walking a happy life. Not, oh, I'm mad, I'm angry at this person because they did this. The blame. Take the blame off of a person and put the blame where it actually belongs, because the blame belongs on the devil. The blame belongs evil. It's evil. Any evil thing that we do, any bad thing that we do, is not of God. It's of the devil. So we have to put the blame where it lies. Dominik came up in dysfunction. He had a lot of things that came up against him that would put him in a position where he would meet statistics where he would get into prison, where he would have to go through this and that. But even in prison, when I didn't want to hear Dominik, when he was in prison, he was a good prisoner. If there is something that you would call, he was doing everything in his power to get out. He was doing everything in his power to have good standards while he was in prison. He was I believe it's like 28. He got 28 different certificates. He was getting every certificate that you can. But at the time, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to listen to that. I didn't care what certificate he got. I couldn't get my brother back. That was me. And saying that, but I just thank and praise God that I can stand tall and I can say that God changed everything. And I don't, God, when we were born, he predestined us to die. And so how it happens, we can never predict how things are going to go. I have a 22-year-old son and a 15-year-old son. I can tell them everything right, but it's the choices we make. Mm-hmm. And we have to understand the firm foundation that God has given us. We still have to follow that foundation. We have to stay with that foundation because the devil, he wants to tear that foundation apart. Mm-hmm. And so we have to stay with God. So I just tell people to stay with God. We have all strayed. We have all drifted. But we don't know if we're going to get to come back. We don't know when we go down the road if we're going to get to go back home. And so we've got to get this right. We've got to get this right. And for everybody out there that you may have never dealt with murder, but you may have dealt with a husband leaving you. You may have dealt with a sister robbing you, a brother robbing you, a friend just mistreating you. Today is the day to forgive. Mm-hmm. Today is the day to forgive. Let it go. Start the process. Make the choice. And that's what I want to say. On June the 8th, I made the choice. And God did the rest.
Incredible. And the date is so profound. That's what, we started out with, is that the opportunity for us to share this story with you guys came on the date that all of this started. Back in what was the
2018.
2018. Now 4 years later, you guys are taking this message, and in your church setting, and that's the City of Faith Church International. Robert Gardner is the pastor there. Miss Peggy, who I just love them. They're so precious, but amazing congregation, in a place where you can go and witness this testimony, living out loud. Right here, because they're both members, and you were talking about how that y'all have come together to teach a class, and are y'all planning to do that again? Do you think you're going to have? Do you have anything on?
Overcomers is at 9 a.m. on Saturday at City of Faith. So that opportunity came. Pastor Gardner and Peggy were out of town. Okay. And so the opportunity came then, but I definitely think it is something to be shared over and over and over again, because the impact. I heard from people when I did my first and second testimony about forgiveness. I heard from people that I would never hear from. People contacted my mother. People contacted Pastor Gardner and Peggy that they didn't even know the story, even though they are here in Robertson County. They were not aware of this story. And so I do think the impact is greater than us. And I know that's why God is using us in this way, because the very people, the unusable, are the people that God will choose.
Amen. We see that just in the lineage of Christ. Go and look at his ancestry and all the people who are so unassuming they're in his ancestry, and you're thinking, well, that's unusual that person's there and that person's there. We see that example, and when you can live it, like I said, living it out loud right there. You want to add something here? You look like you've got something on the tip of your tongue.
Was she just saying that it made me think, because when I first came home and came to Springfield after forgiveness she gave, and we went through our first initial conversation and talking, and I told her, well, I don't like even going to stores here in Robertson County, because I think every time somebody look at me, they know what I've done. And she like, everybody don't know. I said, well, it seems like when they look at me, they can tell me what I've done. And she like, you got to just get out of that and Well, you know what you're doing, and you know what you should be doing. Just walk in there and quit worry about what people think, and that's just been my whole thing. And I also want to say something about dysfunction. We talking about that. A lot of people think dysfunction is always something bad, or it's drugs and alcohol. It's all this other. But dysfunction will come in even when you got a family that don't even talk to each other. Like all the men in my family, we are really quiet. But I seen this trait coming down off of my little cousins. They will not talk. And it's just something we've always did, and I've been telling them here lately, like, talk to people, network, because network is the best word. That's what I learned in prison, and I didn't even know what that was, but the volunteers used to come and say, wait, when these volunteers come here, let them know who you are. Don't be shy. And I was just a little shy kid coming up, but it allowed people to really see who I am authentically and not just be shied off to a corner, because if you shy off into a corner, people can always have their perception of you, but not really know who you are. So I've just been able to try to open up and let people know who I am instead of them just trying to look at me and read me. And that's what I'm trying to show my little boy cousins. Like, tell people who you are. Go into communities and talk to people. Don't be shy because they're your friends. Don't just talk to your friends. Talk to everybody. And it's been a great experience. It's been just being able to just pour into them what I've been pouring into, just something different. And when I met Danavyn, I watch him all over Facebook. I tell myself every day, I wish I could just go out there and just talk to people like that, but I'm just not confident yet. I just hope I can get that one day.
I think you're getting there, and I'll tell you, there's something that that you keep mentioning, talking to the young folks, and the events that led to this, and how you can share with them, this happens, and the choices that were there that you could have made to have led you down a different path. The theme song to this show is called One Street Over. Yeah. And I love the message of that song, because my goodness, I live just one street over from stories that I will never know unless I go looking for them and understand them, and the things I can learn from somebody just one street over from where I live. Breathtaking stories, the stories, like you said, of testimony. That's what we're called to do. That's what we're called to do in our churches, and we have so forgot to do. That's why so many churches are just falling by the wayside, because we're not being real. We're not sharing what God has done in our lives. And how can you influence the young folks coming on, and the folks, again, that are our peers, that are just locked in, they're just locked inside their lives, that are just so dysfunctional in and of themselves, if we don't say, hey, I've been there. Here's what happened with me. And really helping children to not walk down the horrifying path that you guys have had to walk down, by just saying, make better choices, right? Mm-hmm. And because, I mean, and do you have a place where you do talk to kids and you say, here's what happened? Here's the choices that here's what led me down that journey, and here's what I want you to be aware of and be alert for. Do you do that as part of what you're teaching and sharing with folks? Yeah, we got a ministry at our church called Youth Focus, and it's geared to the young adults, young children, teenagers, and we from time to time we separate the girls from the boys, and it give me an opportunity to actually tell my story, because a lot of times kids, they see me in church, they see me as a minister, but they don't know how to be open. So I try to take off that hat and let them see me as Dominik, and let them see it, well, because you see me in ministry, you see me up here, it's not all glimmer and glamour. I have shortcomings as well. And I'm able to be open and honest with them, and let them know, look, I have those thoughts too. You're no different, and I'm no different from them, and what I found, like, just amazing here in Robeson County, I ran into a guy at the store yesterday, and he said, I seen you in Springfield, son. He said, you know people down there? I said, my family's from Springfield. And he says, one thing I admire about Springfield, he said, everybody knows everybody. And I said, well, and it's true, but the problem that I've had lately that I'm looking at, crime is coming into our communities, and it's destroyed a lot of the families. It has destroyed a lot of the family kinship that has been in this community for years and years before we was even thought of. But families knew families, and families took care of families. And I look at the families knew families, and families took care of families. That needs to be on a sign.
Mhm.
Families knew families,
Yeah.
and families took care of families.
Yeah, and
Yeah, love that.
I was just thinking about my crime that I committed, and I just think about I'm kin to Denise on my dad's side. My through this whole process, my dad has reminded me, like, you're kin, they break it all, the lineage down and stuff like that, which I didn't have no clue, and it made me think, like, wow, how did this happen? How did we both get in a position where one life is taken? It's because a lot of times we try to take responsibility into our own hands and take care of problems that we should have no business being at that place at that time and in that space. Yes, the police have a job to do, and the police had to come back into communities and build those relationships and restore what has been broken. Yeah, we can't really stand here and say it's all the police, and we all can't say it's our community. It's all of us. We in this together, and we have to make those decisions to make things right. But I looked at my situation. My dad and Mr. Turner, Mr. Larry, her dad, are very close. They go to games together. It's kind of hard for me to be in that space because of unforgiveness. And what I've done, I can't take it lightly because he's hurt. He'll never get to see his son in the light that my dad get to see me. And I know it hurts. I can imagine. I couldn't even imagine the pain he must feel because I lost my little brother. And I look at the pain in my dad's eyes when we talk about my little brother. So I can just imagine how Mr. Larry feels. So when they're together, my dad like, well, you can't go today because Larry's going to be there. And it hurts him to tell me, no, I can't go. But he knows the position that he must hold to keep Larry some kind of sanity, to be able to enjoy his peace while they're together. And it's just amazing what God can do. I sit here and we just talk about forgiveness all day long, but I couldn't do it in my strength. She couldn't do it in her strength. And to be honest, I never thought this moment would ever come. I really didn't. I didn't even think about that that there was a God that could forgive me. I could read his word all day long, and they can say, God forgive you, and you can walk in a new life, you can be free and do this and do that. But until Denise forgive me, that's the only way I was able to see it, that God is real. That's what really made me think and know God is real. And she talks about the dysfunction and about what we do in our families. And some people might not be able to make it back. I can tell my testimony too. At 15, I was ordained as a youth minister. And I strayed, and I went to the streets, knowing better. I went to the streets and toting pistols and selling dope and doing all these different things but it was because of some more dysfunction. I watched my brother commit suicide. And I said, well, God, if you allow me to see this, you don't love me. And I just ran and done what I thought I was be big enough to do. But God gave me the opportunity to make it back, like the prodigal son. But I tell the parents that's out there with their kids, don't wait till your son come home. Go out there and get them. We so busy waiting on our kids to come back home. Well, they gonna come. We got to go out there and get them where they are, because they'll never feel love, and they always walk into things they know they shouldn't, but it makes them feel whole at that moment. And so if you're sitting on your couch waiting on your kids to come home, don't sit there. Don't wait on to be like the prodigal son, praying and hoping and wishing their child will come back home. Open the door and go out there and get them, because that's where they're going to be found. That's where they're going to verify that they are really loved, when we can go out there and get them in the trenches and show them that they are loved. And that's what happened to me. Even though I was able to came back to the throne, I had a good support system that came and got me and said, you're not what you've been through. You can make a difference. God is going to use you, and God is doing just that. Not in my strength. I wake up every day and thinking, like, God, how can you use me? And like she said earlier, he said, why not? It's people that need to hear forgiveness. A lot of people will never see it. I hear a lot of people say, I would never forgive that person. But Pastor said this Sunday, secrets make you sick, and forgiveness keeps you down. So you just got to forgive, regardless of the pain, the hurt. And it's a daily process. I can imagine what she go through on a daily basis just to keep saying she forgive me every day. Because she told me once before, I just didn't forgive you on in 2018. She said, I forgive you every day. Mm-hmm. And it's an everyday process. And I can just imagine what that process going to be going forward. God brings healings, but the pain, like she said, the pain is still there.
And forgiveness allows me to live in the present. And so I think when people look at it, it's not easy. I say it all the time, it's not easy, but it's necessary. It was necessary for me. And as I was sitting here listening to Dominique, living in the present means that I'm alive today, because I was half dead living in the past. And it brought things back to my memory when God first told me to forgive Denise. It was 2015, and that's why I know God was orchestrating this thing in a way. God would tell me to forgive myself. It may have been like a couple of weeks after one of the hardest hearings that we had went with Dominique in 2015, because we would know that he was going to get out.
Oh, wow.
And
so let me kind of restate that for you and make sure everybody gets this. So it was in 2015 where God said, forgive Denise. So he led you to a forgiveness of yourself before you could get into a place where you could forgive Dominic.
Exactly.
See, and that has happened in my own life where I was having a hard time forgiving somebody, and it's when I forgave myself. So what you're echoing, I can say, amen, sister, because I walked through that same walk. So it was when you were able to forgive yourself for something that you were able to offer forgiveness to Dominic.
3 years later.
Wow.
And so, and I mean, just knowing that he was going to get out, like, I just remember like that being one of the hardest times for my older brother. And his wife, she was like, Danielle, you gotta pray. I got rebaptized in 2015, filled with the Holy Ghost. So she knew that, I could pray in tongues, and, because there was nothing that I could say that could make things better. But his wife, she was like, I need you to pray in the Holy Ghost for him, because he's just, we would leave the prison and go try to eat, but there was no eating taking place. Just knowing that, Dominique was going to be a free man, and that was something that we had fought for 7 years. For it not to happen. So like I can tell you, like I just never it just blows my mind every time I just think about what God did. Every time I just think about what God did for me, so I could move on in life. And I say that to say this, because after I forgave Dominique, God started using me in ways that I didn't even imagine. I didn't even think. I was not a person to talk a lot, not in a group setting, but one-on-one. And so people just start asking me to pray for them all the time. And God just led me to start a prayer call. And so I started this prayer call February 2019. And still today it goes on. And during COVID, like people were requesting, I only did it once a week, but people were requesting, oh, you need to do your prayer call more, and so there's a need for all of us. And God, he will use you the way that he predestined to use you. But you have to say yes to him. And about the young boys, that's what drew me to this story. What the forgiveness part, the Dominique bringing me in, that really didn't draw me as much, because I know we're living it and walking it out. But what drew me to this story was 2 black men being on this radio station and wanting to help other black men, because I have 2 sons. And so as a mother, what Dominique was saying, go out and get them. Don't wait for them to come back. We need some strong men to get our sons.
Go get them.
And start getting them early. You're not too busy to go to the funeral when they're killed. You're not too busy to lock them up, but you're too busy to help them. So strong men that are walking in purpose, that are godly men that don't mind helping and mentoring That's what this community needs. We have nothing else for these kids to do but the streets. The streets, they're going to offer them something that seems appealing to them. But we offer them nothing.
Go get them.
Go get them.
Go get them. And I tell you, it is 8 till, and I've got 3 commercials I need to run through. I just absolutely did not want to interrupt this. I wanted to let this flow, and we'll come in. I'm just gonna real quickly go through my sponsors, but we'll go back in between and just kind of see if there's any closing thoughts, because Lee Marie's going to be popping in here in a minute with the Go Show. But incredible show. If you've not heard this, it will be archived. You can go back and see it. And I'm going to be talking to my friend Larry Souder, who does Stories of Amazing Grace at my congregation. And I feel pretty strongly that he's going to want to bring you guys in and produce an episode of Stories of Amazing Grace, which I was telling them that while the video is presented on different platforms with, where you can present video, the audio of that is presented on World Christian Broadcasting, which goes worldwide. And I think this is such a powerful story. And so I feel like we'll be orchestrating that. I won't put Larry on the spot, but I've already talked to him about it. And I mean, we're going to continue to share this amazing story. But I do need to pause for a minute. I need to talk about my sponsors who make this show possible. Cumberland Connect. I actually saw some Cumberland Electric people on my road as I was traveling in, and I kind of went, I wonder if that's it. If that's Cumberland Connect coming to bring me high-speed internet with speeds up to 1,000 megabits per second. That's a gig. I'm excited because I have lived with not good connectivity for a very long time. And if you live out in the country, you know what I'm talking about. I'm a photographer, and it's vital to doing the work that I'm doing that I can upload photographs, and I do a lot of video. I do a lot of media stuff. I have to come and sit in the parking lot of the radio station and steal Ebenezer Broadcasting's internet. And it's just kind of a joke between me and ILU, but that's what I have to do because I don't have high-speed internet, but it's coming. I'm on the map to get it before the end of the year. And if you want to find out when you're going to have access to high-speed internet, you can go to cumberlandconnect.org. www.cumberlandconnect.org and see the status map and see when your zip code, put your zip code in, and it'll tell you when you're projected to get the high-speed internet. But if you are a Cumberland Electric customer, you're going to have access. It's so cool. And they're talking no data caps. They'll never throttle your speeds, no residential contracts, free standard residential installation, state-of-the-art Wi-Fi 6 router included with the internet service at no extra charge, 24/7, 365 days a year. You're going to have technical support. They've got referral programs. And again, go and check them out at cumberlandconnect.org, and you can find out when they're coming to your community. But it's going to be awesome. High-speed internet coming to you, and tell them when you talk to them that U-Turn sent you. Okay, here we go. We're going to go. Any thoughts that we need to get to before we kind of start wrapping it up? And I got to get right to another commercial. But anything that we're missing that you guys want to share before we kind of get to the wrap up here that you think? What about you, Donovan? Donovan's been so quiet and just sitting over to the side. And I got to tell you something. You couldn't see the tears and things that were flowing in here, but just the emotion of this morning has been so powerful. And you yourself, because I think when you first heard this, I remember when you first introduced me to Dominik, you were in tears sharing the story, because we all have people that are close in our lives that we can empathize, and I can't imagine what you're going through. And so as we think about those precious people in our life, our children, our brothers, it comes to mind. And so your heart just breaks for all of you. And so, I mean, do you have anything you want to add? Because we're running out of time real quick.
Just thank you both for just taking the time out for speaking. And again, thank you to your families for just allowing me to engage you guys and to bring you onto the show. It's such a sensitive situation, but I really appreciate you. And as you guys were speaking, I'm just thinking of my family and my sister. And I just know there's certain people that, so the spirit was definitely filled. I couldn't stop crying just because I appreciate you both. And I appreciate your families for trusting you all to come here today.
Thank you so much. And I tell you what, let's just go ahead and pause. Let me go do ahead. I'm just cramming the commercials in here. Forgive me, my sponsors, but I think you'll understand why as you go and hear this powerful testimony. But we do want to mention Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center. They're open Monday through Sunday. They're open 7 days a week right now. You can go see them from 9 to 6:30. They'll be at the farmers market on Saturday. You can go and check them out, and they'll have everything you need, including those beautiful flowering baskets everybody wants on their porch, but you do have to water them. I'm notorious for not putting enough water and stuff and killing plants all the time. Got to water that stuff, y'all. But they're also your source for CBD. If you've got arthritis like me, it is a game changer. It has been emphasized to me even more importantly lately, and I'll explain that later. But it has been a huge game changer for me when it comes to my arthritic pain, and it really may be a help for you. It's also great for bug bites. I never knew it, but we found that out from Brian Pooley. We'll talk to him about that tomorrow. But this summer, add something to your life that will really help it, and it's natural. It's produced from the plants that her brother Bill grows right here in Robertson County. This is Robertson County CBD. If you're interested in finding out more about it, go to the source, and that's what you're going to get at Corbin Creek. Again, they're open 9 to 6:30, 7 days a week right now. You can go call them at 615-384-3185, 615-384-3185. They're at 4920 Highway 161. They will be at the farmers market. They're friends of mine, great sponsors of this program, and when you talk to them, always tell them U-Turn sent you. Finishing it up here, you guys, any parting thoughts, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with my last sponsor and bring on Lee Marie for the Ghost Show. Any parting thoughts? Go ahead.
Well, just thank y'all very much for this opportunity. Also, just thanking God for doing the impossible, thanking God for just being who He is in all of our lives. God never fails, and what His word said it is, His word is true. And I just thank Denise for agreeing for this opportunity. Just showing what God can do. It's not in our strength, but all in God's strength.
Amen. Amen. Denise?
Thank you for the opportunity as well, for having us on the show and just giving us a chance to get, this forgiveness message out. Because I think it's very important. It is very important for us to get it quick. Mm-hmm. Just forgive. Just forgive today. I just tell everybody to forgive.
Forgive. I think, again, I have signs all over my house with things I liked about the family. They knew each other and they took care of each other. And I think we all need, just on our wall constantly, forgive. Mm-hmm. Forgive. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, healing begins, and it just takes you over. Thank you guys so much for what an honor you gave me getting to share your story in this way. I'm just honored to know you guys, and the door's always open. So as you go to the church and you start sharing more about it, this is City of Faith International, where their church members. Go check out this congregation. City of Faith International. Robert Gardner is the pastor. Sweet Peggy, his bride. They're just amazing people. It's an amazing congregation, and I can imagine there's going to be more opportunities to share your testimony there. And if you have something coming up and it's particular and you want to come on and make sure everybody knows about it, call me. Door's always open.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And thank you, Danavyn, always for just bringing me amazing stories. And as we head out, and we're a little bit over, I do need to share my last sponsor, and that is Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. My friends here in Robertson County, they're from Cross Plains. They're one of us. If you are dealing with real estate community, if you're buying or selling, you want to make sure you're properly represented no matter what side of the table you're sitting on. Rebecca is one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. She comes to the table studying. She's going to always stay up to date on everything she needs to know to make sure you're properly represented. And then you've got Barry, who is a marketer, who came out of a marketing background. He's vice president of a marketing company for many years. Went into real estate a few years ago full time with his wife Rebecca, and now he is so busy that's all he can do. He's even given up his beekeeping, and that just, I can't hardly believe it. That's what their whole family's been in that forever. But they are busy, and that tells you that they're good at what they do. If you're needing representation, buying or selling, get a hold of them today at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or see their listings at robertsoncounty.com. They buy and sell in Robertson County. They specialize, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties. Across the state line in Kentucky, they are dear friends. Can't recommend them enough. Sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy robertsoncounty.com. Always tell them you turned Cincha. Thank you for joining me here on One Street Over. This is 1100 WSGI. Stay tuned for the Go Show. God bless. Have a great day. And thank you guys again.